At some point, almost everyone has experienced this. You decide to change your life. You start working out. You begin focusing on your goals. You commit to becoming more disciplined. And for a few days, maybe even a few weeks, things go well. But then something strange happens. You begin sabotaging your own progress. You skip the workout. You procrastinate. You return to the habits you promised yourself you would leave behind. And afterward, you ask the same frustrating question. Why do I keep doing this to myself? The answer is uncomfortable. Because self-sabotage isn't random. It's psychological. And once you understand the mechanisms behind it, you begin to see why so many people struggle to maintain discipline. One of the most powerful forces in human psychology is familiarity. Your brain prefers what it already knows, even when what it knows isn't good for you. This is because the brain prioritizes predictability over improvement. Predictability means safety. Change means uncertainty. And uncertainty triggers resistance. This is why people often remain stuck in routines they claim to hate. The habits are familiar. The patterns are predictable, even if those patterns prevent growth. So when you begin changing your behavior, waking up earlier, working harder, pushing yourself beyond comfort, your brain experiences that change as a threat. Not a logical threat, but a psychological one. Because the system it understands is being disrupted. And the fastest way for the brain to restore stability is simple. Return to the old habits. Most people believe self-sabotage is about laziness, but in reality, it's often about identity. Every person carries a mental image of who they are. This identity is built from past behavior. If someone has spent years procrastinating, avoiding challenges, or quitting difficult goals, their brain builds a quiet internal belief, this is the kind of person I am. Now here's where the conflict begins. When you start acting in ways that contradict the identity, the brain experiences tension. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance. Your actions say one thing, your identity says another, and the brain tries to resolve the conflict. But instead of upgrading the identity, the brain often does something easier. It changes the behavior. In other words, it pulls you back into your old habits, not because you lack discipline, but because your identity hasn't caught up with the person you're trying to become. There's another uncomfortable truth about self-sabotage. Failure can feel strangely safe. When you fail, the story remains simple. I didn't succeed because I didn't try hard enough. But success introduces a new set of pressures. Higher expectations, greater responsibility, more visibility, more risk. And for many people, that level of responsibility feels intimidating. So the brain protects itself in a subtle way. It creates obstacles, procrastination, distraction, avoidance. These behaviors reduce the chance of success, and they also reduce the pressure that success would bring. It's a strange paradox. Sometimes people sabotage their progress not because they fear failure, but because they fear what success might demand from them. Modern life makes self-sabotage even easier. Every time work becomes difficult, your brain looks for relief. And relief is available instantly. Social media, videos, notifications, endless digital entertainment. Each of these provides a quick dopamine release. Your brain learns something important from this. When effort becomes uncomfortable, escape is always available. So instead of pushing through difficulty, the brain chooses relief. And the more often this pattern repeats, the stronger it becomes. Over time, distraction becomes the automatic response to effort. This is why many people struggle to maintain focus for long periods. Their brain has learned that discomfort should always be avoided. Breaking self-sabotage begins with understanding it. You're not fighting laziness, you're fighting psychological patterns. The first step is awareness. Notice when resistance appears. Self-sabotage often begins with small rationalizations. I'll start tomorrow. I deserve a break. It won't matter if I skip today. These thoughts are signals that your brain is trying to return to familiar behavior. The second step is reducing escape routes. When distractions are constantly available, the brain will use them. But when the environment limits those escapes, focus becomes easier. And the third step is building a new identity. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you create evidence. Evidence that you are someone who finishes what they start. At first, that evidence is small, but over time it accumulates. And eventually, your brain begins accepting a new identity. Someone who does difficult things. Someone who pushes through resistance. Someone who is disciplined. Self-sabotage isn't a personal flaw. It's the result of powerful psychological mechanisms designed to protect familiarity and comfort. But once you understand those mechanisms, they lose much of their power. Because awareness creates choice. And every time you choose effort over escape, you weaken the patterns that once controlled you. Discipline isn't built in a single decision, it's built in the quiet moments where you decide not to sabotage yourself again.